Hi, this is Ali Din with Premier BPO. We're just coming off the heels of Jackson Hole Economic Symposium and thought I'd share some thoughts here. We had a lot of key players in attendance. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, the head of the European Central Bank, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, and what was interesting here was a very unified message around inflation. And so the message was really to attack inflation in a very deliberate manner and at any cost, which means that even if this is going to be at the risk of economic or slowing down growth, even going down into a recession, the focus is really on reducing inflation. And we've seen inflation in the US peaking over 9.5%. It's momentarily down in the eights at the moment. We'll have to see, as we go in further, especially in September, when interest rates are expected to be a minimum of 50 basis points up, but more likely 75 basis points going up. So interest rates are going to be going up. And so there's a lot of focus on this structural issue that the central banks are trying to address. I think the takeaway here for businesses is to be prepared for a slowdown in growth. Recession, you could go, there's a lot of different opinions on it, but I did dig into, one take on this from Bain. And they had an article, or rather a report, which they called their playbook for the recession. And the key point that Bain made here is that this recession would be different from the 2008 and 2011 version, because you're in a period of obviously the global pandemic, but you also have a lot of supply chain disruptions going on. And some other factors, geopolitical risk that have been here as well. So out of the recommendations from Bain, it was really around improving cash flow and specifically the liquidity in your business, as well as the balance sheet, and really strengthening the balance sheet before the downturn so that you're in a strong state as you go into it, staying focused on customers, which goes without saying, but in a downturn, you really want to make sure you're upping the ante on customer experience and not just taking customers for granted. This is a time where you can really shine, and detractors from other companies may come over to you, and it's a great way to making sure you're also retaining your own customers. The other piece from Bain was really around surgically restructuring your costs. And a lot of care goes into that. You don't necessarily need to cut down to the bone, but you want to be very surgical about how you do this. Overall, the research really shows from Bain that companies have a dramatic gain or a downward momentum when they are faced with these kinds of downturns or recessions, especially versus a more stable environment. So now is the time really to take those actions and prepare for any type of whether you feel it'll just be a slowdown or whether it's a full-blown recession that you have to deal with. It's best to be prepared, do a lot of scenario planning and analysis, really involve your strategy teams to the extent possible. Again, this is Ali Din with Premier BPO. Thanks for listening.